Michelle Torrio, and this is the Be Mindful podcast. Hi there, and welcome back to the Be Mindful podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about a skill that I believe you need if you don't have it yet. And this is a skill that I really believe that it can improve each and every one of our lives, but it's also a skill that I know a lot of us weren't taught. I mean, I wasn't taught this. I had to learn it on my own just from reading books and listening to podcasts. So here I am sharing this skill with you, and that is emotional intelligence. Now, before we get into the episode, if you are new here, welcome. If you are interested in mindset, manifestation, transformation, and just bettering yourself, then this is the podcast for you. So make sure you subscribe and follow for more. All right, let's get right into it. So what is emotional intelligence? Like, what skill is this? So this is you having the awareness of your emotions at all times. And the reason why this is important is because it can really improve every area of your life. Like, it can improve your communication skills with your partner or your friends. It can improve your confidence. It can improve your career and you achieving your goals. It has such a positive impact in your life when you have this skill, because it's not for you to control your emotions. Like, it's far from that. Having emotional intelligence is you being able to navigate through your emotions so you don't stay stuck in a low vibration like sadness or staying angry. Now, of course, before we end this episode, I'm going to make sure I give you some actionable steps you could take today. That way you can start working on this skill and just you can keep improving it. This is a skill that I talk about and teach in my coaching program. So if you are someone that is finding yourself in patterns where you are always sad, or maybe you're always negative towards yourself, this is you becoming so aware that your thoughts are impacting your emotions. And so if you are someone that is finding yourself in that loop and you want to work with a coach, check out the link in my description so you can join the wait list. Most importantly, I do want to mention that your emotions are not the enemy. Your emotions are information. I teach my clients that our emotions are signals to us to show us like what is happening. And that is why it's important to be very aware, because when you stay stuck in an emotion, you could potentially be making decisions based off that emotion. So your emotions are definitely not the problem. It's just using your emotions to make decisions can be. So this is where I want to introduce the concept of emotional flexibility. So emotional intelligence is you being aware of your emotions at all times. And emotional flexibility is where you are able to navigate from one emotion to another. This is another thing I teach my clients, because of course, we can't control our emotions, but at least we can learn and know how to navigate from, let's say, sadness to joy. And of course, it's not going to be perfect, but when you have this skill and you know how to go from point A to point B, it's easier because you're teaching your brain like, okay, this is how I feel right now, but I can navigate into a higher emotion. I want you to think of your emotions as like the weather. With the weather, we of course don't know if it's going to be sunny every single day, right? Every day is different. There's going to be days where it is sunny, or it's raining, or it's storming, and it's unpredictable sometimes. And that is our emotions. So when we think of emotional flexibility, it's really knowing that the weather, aka your emotions, can change, but also believing that the storms and challenges that we go through is not part of who we are. Like, that is not part of our identity. I know that some people can say that, oh, I'm just such an emotional person, or they feel like they shouldn't feel a certain way. I don't believe that. I think that however you feel is so valid, but again, it's really up to you and having that responsibility of knowing that you can get out of that negative emotion, that you can work through it, and that you're not anxious all the time and that you're not sad all the time. So when you're going through a tough time and your emotions just feel kind of everywhere, or you're just going through it, What's going on in your brain is your amygdala is activated. So this is the area where your emotions are being triggered from your brain. And then what also happens is your prefrontal cortex. So this is the area, like right here, literally the front part of your brain is your prefrontal cortex. This is the area where you make decisions. So imagine if you're making decisions emotionally, like how would you actually make those choices if you had a clearer mind? And that is why I wanted to bring up this skill today, because again, a lot of us just weren't taught this. And if we're able to kind of reel ourselves in and check ourselves and navigate through our emotions, I'm sure that the way that you respond to the world won't be so reactive. It'll be more intentional, the way that you're responding. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is let's try to avoid making decisions based off our emotions, because our amygdala is being activated while our prefrontal cortex is not being as effective. I'm sure you have been in a situation where maybe you're just so angry at someone and then you send the angry text and then later you look back and you're like, dang, I shouldn't have done that. And it's because you responded through anger, or maybe even just like making impulse buys because of the way the product makes you feel, but it's really not something that you need or technically should be buying at the moment. I'm sure a lot of us have been there too. So having emotional flexibility really allows us to restore access to the thoughtful decision making. When you become so aware, this can truly change your life. And the reason why it can change your life is because you don't have to fight every emotion. Instead, you can be the observer and just be so aware, like, okay, this is how I'm feeling right now. Why did it start? Like, how did I get here? So even if you're in a situation where you feel like you're disappointed or you're frustrated or even nervous for something, you can pivot from that thought and think a higher thought that it's okay, I'm feeling this way, but I'm still going to show up for myself. And what that does, it teaches your brain resilience. And another thing about having emotional flexibility is you're way less stress because you're not being reactive anymore. You're really understanding what matters and what's important to you, and leaning on focusing on happiness and being joyful and knowing that every situation that you go through, whether it's good or bad, is temporary. And when you're emotionally grounded, you're more likely to go after your goals. You don't feel as stressed within your mind because you know what to focus on. When we are not making decisions based on our emotions, you will start to notice more opportunities. Like things will be clearer for you, and you'll be able to make decisions that align with your values, and you'll be able to show up consistently. And those are the behaviors that naturally change the results you want to create. Now, I want to remind you that I'm not telling you that you need to be perfect all the time and that navigating from a sad emotion or a low vibration emotion is always going to be easy. But remember, with repetition, you are training your mind how to navigate, right? So if you are someone that is pretty reactive and you've been that way your whole life and you want to respond with more calmness, this is what I recommend. I recommend that you become aware of your emotions. That's literally the first step. I always tell my clients the first step to change anything is awareness. And so just monitoring yourself and seeing how you feel, that's going to be able to tell you like, okay, this is how I feel majority of the time. Like what needs to change? And with emotional flexibility becomes more peace, right? Literally peace of mind. And peace isn't the absence of difficult emotions. Like that's not it at all. It's just knowing that every emotion doesn't become your identity. Like it's not who you are. This skill is so important for me to share because I know what it's like to be so reactive. Growing up, I feel like I allowed so many things to bother me or upset me, and I would stay in those emotions for so long. Like, for example, if there's something that I was working towards and I didn't do as well as I wanted to, I wouldn't be proud of myself. Instead, I would be more angry and upset at how the results were, right? And I would stay in those emotions. I would stay so upset, and I'd be going over everything in my mind of how I could have approached it differently and what I could have done better, and just staying in those low vibration emotions. When in reality, I could have been like, okay, I did my best. It is what it is, but what can I do to be better next time? Like, what could I do to improve? But I wasn't taught how to navigate through my emotions. Like, we're not taught that in school, and my parents didn't teach me that. And maybe whoever is listening to this right now or watching the video, you weren't taught that either. So, this is why I bring this up today, because we can show up fully for ourselves and for our loved ones when our cup is full. And part of filling our cup is really learning how to focus on what gives us more joy and knowing how to step out of the emotions that don't provide us joy. So I'm going to share with you these 5 prompts that are going to help you navigate through your emotions. And try this. Try this for a month and see how you feel, because the moment you start teaching yourself to be aware, you'll start to create this as a habit. And when you create that as a habit, it'll become unconscious, and then your brain will be wired to do that every single time. So I want to call this practice the pause practice, okay? And there's 5 prompts. The first question I want you to ask yourself is, what am I feeling? And I want to make sure you use this prompt in a time where maybe you're just going through it. You're having a hard time. Maybe you were triggered. Specifically during those moments, I want you to write this down. So the first question, what am I feeling? And the second question is, what triggered this? The trigger is so important. So for example, let's say you were feeling really sad, and you were feeling sad because maybe you were on social media and you were comparing yourself to other people. Comparison does absolutely nothing. It is pointless. It's never a win-win situation. It's always a lose-lose. Just want to mention that. But maybe that's the reason you were triggered, okay? That's just an example. The third question I want you to ask yourself is, what is a story that I am telling myself? So in one of my past episodes, I can't remember which one, but I was talking about how we tend to have a lot of bullshit stories that we tell ourselves. And let's say in that scenario, when you started comparing yourself, you were telling yourself that you weren't good enough, or you will never be as pretty as these other girls, or whatever it is, all this bullshit, right? It's very, very important that you become aware of this. This is emotional intelligence, right? You're becoming aware of your emotions. You're seeing what triggered it. And then you're learning about yourself, like what is going through your mind, like you're understanding your own thought patterns. And the fourth question is asking yourself, how do I want to respond to this? Like I mentioned earlier, we want to be intentional with how we respond and no longer reacting. We want to be able to make decisions not emotionally, okay? We want to make clear decisions, and that is exactly why we want to understand, like, how do we want to respond? So if you have been in that scenario before where you've compared yourself and you're going through this, right? This is going to really help you just kind of flip the script, like change the story. The fifth question is asking yourself, what actions align with the person that I want to become? So think of the best version of yourself, right? The higher version of yourself, your future self. What would they do? Like, would they be comparing themselves? Like, what would they do in this situation if they found themselves feeling this way? And how would they want to respond? So let's go over the 5 questions again. I need to look at my notes so I don't forget them. So 1, what am I feeling? 2, what triggered this? 3, what story am I telling myself? 4, how do I want to respond to this instead of reacting? And 5, what action aligns with the person I'm becoming? This is going to be your pause practice, okay? So anytime you are going through a negative emotion, try this out. See what you learn about yourself. There is so much power in being able to be so aware, because you have a choice. You have a choice on what you want to focus on. And what creates these emotions is normally our thoughts. So really become aware of your emotions daily. And if you find yourself not happy or you find yourself focusing on things that drain you, that are energetically draining, your emotions are going to tell you those are your signals. That's what I always tell my clients. Emotions are signals. Your relationship with your emotion often determines your next decision. And over time, your decisions is what shapes the life that you create. So the goal here isn't to become someone who like never feels fear or sadness or anger. The goal here is for you to become someone who feels their emotions but knows how to navigate through them so that they can continue moving forward. And also to be mindful, mindful of your thoughts, mindful of your emotions, because like I always say, who you are from within will attract from the out. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope that you learned something about yourself. If you try out this exercise, let me know and tell me how you started to respond. Like if something triggered you, what did you do differently to respond? And let me know if you notice it again. Like if that same emotion that you were triggered by comes up again, were you able to navigate it better the next time? Like that's the goal, right? It's just improving each time, having grace and not being so hard on ourselves. But that is all I have for today. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like this episode, please like it, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.